Hi everybody, I'm Robinson Arevalo. Thank you for watching my channel. Normally I'm talking about different kind of topic, giving us that kind of feeling that we can live better, better and better. Today I'm going to talk about what does it mean to be bisexual. It seems to have become hip to being bisexual used to be shunned by both the hetero and homosexual communities. But something has changed. Maybe we become more open, or maybe we become more aware, or maybe we become both. Bisexual means that you are sexually or romantically attracted to both males and females, not necessarily in equal amounts and not necessarily favoring one over the other. But to be bisexual is defined by having an attraction to both genders. There is some contentions about being bisexual because some define bisexual or when a person isn't clear about or ready to admit they're homosexual if you sleep with people of the same sex. Even sometimes doesn't that make you gay? Bisexual says may monosexual people, straight, gay, and lesbian, find bisexuality confusing. The reason being bisexuality redefine the boundaries by not limiting them straight, gay, and lesbian sexuality, divides humanity in two categories. By biological sex, one of which is potentially attractive to the person, one of which is not bisexuality, which is considered one of the four main sexual identities: gay, straight, asexual, and bisexual, blows the binary outlook of sexuality of the world. Are we all bisexual? It's more than half of us identify of having some sex attraction. Could it be that we are all bisexual to a degree? People who are more open are more willing to take chances and try new things, so they may very well experiment with sexual fluidity, although they are primarily interested in one gender. Some people are less open and curious, so they are closed off to experimentation. You cannot separate sexual behaviors from personality. Rather than studies on bisexuality seem to throw even more shades of gray into the mix. When you peel back two layers, identifying your sexuality is a personal journey and it can change. The morphine is part of what seems as the complexity of bisexuality. However, it's not that people who are bisexual are confused. It's more than our language around it has been. According to the new studies, straight people don't exist. You may think you are only attracted to the opposite sex, but strictly straight people don't exist according to a psychologist. In real life, bisexuality can be an outward identity to have creating a challenge truly fitting in with either the straight or LGBT communities. But most bisexuality turns to be quite misunderstood. Myths and stereotypes about bisexuality abound, some even contradicting one another. Some here are examples of myths. This is especially laughable. The idea that all people have to be either straight or gay is pervasive and persists, especially when it comes to men, frustratingly, even within the most LGBT-friendly circles. You encounter the idea that there is no such thing as a bisexual man. The second myth is bisexuality is just a phase. Bisexuality is represented as a state of experimentation or confusion, stereotypically experienced during the challenge years that occurs before a person settles on their true identity. The third myth is bisexual can be faithful to their partners. This myth, arguably the most pernicious one, stems from the assumption that one partner cannot fully satisfy a person who is attracted to both genders sooner or later. Other people assume they yearn for someone of the gender that their partner is not. The growing field of research on bisexuality is promising is that it contrasts many myths and misconceptions while also providing some interesting insight into sexuality in general. Freud believed that every human being is bisexual in the sense of incorporating general attributes of both sexes in his view. This was true anatomically and therefore also psychologically, with sexual attraction to both sexes being an aspect of the psychological bisexuality. Ancient Greeks did not associate sexual relation with binary labels, as modern Western society does. Men who had made lovers were not identified as homosexual and may have had wife or other female lovers. Spartans thought that love and erotic relationship between inexperienced and novice soldiers would solidify combat loyalty and unit cohesion and encourage heroic tactics as men vied to impress their lovers. Sexual attraction, behavior, and identity may also be incongruent, as sexual attraction or behavior may not necessarily be consistent with identity. Some individuals identify themselves as heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual without having had only sexual experience. A bisexual identity does not necessarily equate to equal sexual attraction to both sexes. Commonly, people who have distinct but no exclusive sexual preference for one sex over the other also identify themselves as bisexuals. Bisexuality has been observed in various human societies. Still, it seems more people may be growing up with the assumption that sexuality is more complicated than we have previously acknowledged, and that does not need to be a problem. What about you? Do you feel like a bisexual? So that's it for today, and thank you for watching me. Please give me a like if you like this video. Please give me a subscription. It's free. It's for free. It doesn't cost nothing. So here on the photography appearing on the screen. Thank you very much for watching me, and to the next time. Namaste.